February 1996. Still working as a picture framer at Illyria Arts. This is the month that my girlfriend and I break up. No need to go into that stuff. That's about it. Nothing else to report for the month that I can remember. So let's just get to the books. And I only have one book in my possession of the stuff that's on this list, and I left it over here, so I'm going to have to reach over there. But it's the first book that I read in February of 1996, and that is The Judas Goat by Robert B. Parker, a Spencer novel. In this one, some terrorists blow up someone's wife and kids, and they hire Parker to find these terrorists and get revenge, bring them to justice. So Spencer's got to go to London, and he's got to try to turn one of the terrorists into a Judas goat to lead him to the other terrorists. Saying that word an awful lot. And as always, it's Spencer. It's good stuff. Takes him out of his element, out of Boston. Wow, this is going to be one hell of a video. Takes him out of his element, out of Boston. And so we get to see him as a little bit of a fish out of water. But it's good stuff. I followed that up with Looking for Rachel Wallace by Robert B. Parker, another Spencer novel. I do not have a copy of that, obviously. And, I've talked about all of these before because I've read them all before. But for anybody who doesn't remember or who is new to these videos, there's a feminist author, and she's getting all sorts of threats, and so her publicist or agent, somebody, they hire Spencer to basically be her bodyguard. They clash, and he ends up getting fired, and then she ends up getting kidnapped, and so Spencer has to find her. And it's a well-written, it's a great book. Looking back, some people might say it's that not white savior, but male savior kind of thing. Ooh, the feminist has to be saved by the big strong man. But it's deeper than that. And Spencer is a better character than that. Robert B. Parker, I think, is a better writer than that. I enjoyed the book, but it has been a long time since I read it. Book number 3, continuing all the things I started, or a lot of the things I started in January. Book number 3 in February is Star Wars Return of the Jedi by James Caan. And this is obviously a novelization of the movie Return of the Jedi. And I don't remember enough about it to say how different it was from the movie, or if it was different from the movie, if they added anything. But I had started in January reading the Star Wars saga in order, at least what existed at the time. And we're going to come back to that shortly. Book number 4, The Memoirs of Wild Bill Hickok by Richard Matheson. This is a fictionalized story, and basically Wild Bill has written his memoirs because he wants to correct all of the stories that have floated around about him, and making him this great, Western hero. And so he's telling the true story, which is that he was clumsy. A lot of the great things he did happened by accident. You can take that for what you will, but it's written by Richard Matheson, so at the very least it's a well-written story. I enjoyed it because I don't care about Wild Bill Hickok one way or the other. Then we have a book that I swear I have this book somewhere. I can't find it. Maybe I don't have it anymore. Oh, I forgot to look over there. But anyway, it is called It Came from the Drive-In, and it's edited by Norman Partridge and Martin H. Greenberg, and it's an anthology of drive-in inspired stories, meaning the types of movies you would have seen at the drive-in back in the day. Has nothing to do with Joe R. Lansdale's drive-in trilogy. Um, but it has stories like The Thing from Lover's Lane, Plan 10 from Inner Space, and authors like Nancy A. Collins, I believe, Carl Edward Wagner, I think was one of the names. Um, I love that kind of stuff. Of course, as an anthology, it's a mixed bag. Good stories, not so good stories, great stories, but a lot of fun, especially if you like those B movie, drive-in movie kind of stories. Excuse me. Now we're back to Star Wars. So the next book up is Star Wars: The Truce at Bakura by Kathy Tyers. And this story takes place immediately. Like, if I remember correctly, it's like 2 seconds after the end of Return of the Jedi is where this story starts. There might even be a little overlap where the book actually starts with the end of it's immediately following the end of Return of the Jedi. And I liked the idea that, just because the second Death Star was blown up, the Emperor was killed, we won't get into that, Darth Vader was dead, that it didn't mean that suddenly the galaxy, we'll say the galaxy, far, far away, was safe, at peace, that the Empire was actually over, etc., etc. And this is something that has come up since, but this was, for me at least, the first time in any of the Star Wars stuff I had read that idea was on the page. And so they're celebrating the death of the Emperor, the death of Darth Vader, the destruction of the second Death Star, and they get a message from this planet, Bakura, that's on the Outer Rim, I believe, and they're being invaded by this race of reptilians that I don't remember the name of, because of course there's a power vacuum now, and so this reptilian race wants to take over the galaxy. So Leia and Luke, because Obi-Wan tells them to, have to go to Bakura and try to take care of things. It was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites. I didn't hate it. As we get into more Star Wars books, we'll get into, there are some that I really, really loved, some that were okay, and some that I didn't like at all. And this sort of this is the okay, falls in the middle. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know how far I continue on this trend at this point in time. I have never read the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. I believe I started the first one at some point and could not get into it and never finished it. Someday I may go back and try them again. But as we go through here, I don't know if anybody cares, but those are not going to be anywhere on this list. But let's move on. In February of 1996, and the next book is Gone to Texas by Forrest Carter. And this is the novel on which the movie The Outlaw Josey Wales is based. And if I remember correctly, Gone to Texas comes from the fact that at the end of the Civil War, at some point, people would leave their homesteads, whether they were on the run or just wanted to get out, and they would just tack a note up on the door that said "Gone to Texas." But anyway, The Outlaw Josey Wales, this book, is Josey Wales was a Confederate soldier, and his entire platoon was murdered, but he got away. It's been a long time since I read it or seen the movie, but it's kind of a revenge tale, and I like the movie. I like the book. And this might have been the book that I was reading when I realized that there are a lot of protagonists in fiction that are Confederate soldiers. popular protagonists, whether it's the outlaw Josie Wales, John Carter from the Edgar Rice Burroughs movies, I believe, or movies, books. There are movies. I believe he was Confederate. Jonah Hex was a Confederate soldier. I just think that's kind of an interesting thing. So, Gone to Texas, Forrest Carter. It's a good book. There's a sequel. I think it's going to be on this list. I don't recall. I think I read it, though, because I think I had like a book that had both of them. But anyway, let's move on. The next book, and I don't think I have this. I should have double-checked. But even if I do, it's going to be at the bottom of a very large pile, and I wasn't going to dig it out. But it is At the Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And this is the first of the Pellucidar books. That's how I pronounce it. And I didn't look it up, so I don't know the characters' names, but there's a couple of characters who, there's a scientist, he has this drill, he wants to dig down into the earth, and they go, and it turns out that the earth is hollow. There's a sun in the middle of the earth. There's a point somewhere in the middle of the earth's crust where gravity flops. So of course we're on the outside of the earth being pulled down towards the surface, and then there's a point where it flops so that the people on the inside of the earth are being pulled to their inner surface. Sun's up in the middle, so there's never any night, and there's dinosaur type creatures and cave people type people, and these weird hypnotic pteranodon type dinosaur bird creatures that are evil. Great pulpy fun. And as I said, the first in the series, 5 books maybe in the series, depending. There's like in the solo series, but there's a Tarzan book where Tarzan goes to Pellucidar. I actually, in the original Tarzan series, and then I actually just bought a new book that I believe takes place. So there are authors still writing about this, but this is the original. A lot of fun. Really, really like the Pellucidar stuff. And I only have one book in the series at the moment, not counting the Tarzan, because I have all of those. And I think it's the one that's just called Pellucidar. I don't think I have At the Earth's Core at the moment. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the final book that I read in February of 1996, and that is The Client by John Grisham. And this is about a kid who sees something he shouldn't see, and so he's got the DA and the legal system coming at him from one side. He's got these bad guys coming at him from the other side. Of course, the DA wants him to talk. The bad guys want to keep him quiet. And this female attorney, who's only been an attorney for 4 years, I can't remember her name, takes him on as a client and basically is trying to protect him from both sides, keep him alive, and get him through whatever he needs to eat. I guess as long as he testifies, if he can testify, the mob has no reason to kill him anymore. They want to stop him from testifying. She's trying to get him to testify safely, protect him, because even the DAs are just assholes. She's trying to protect him from both sides. Pretty good. John Grisham stuff. I enjoyed it. I like a good legal thriller now and then, although I've found an author that I prefer to John Grisham, at least their earlier works. But The Client by John Grisham. It was fun. And that's it. That's what I read in February of 1996. And let's see. A question for this video. I did not think of one ahead of time because I never do. Okay, how is this? Do you have any interest in a fictional memoir of a real person? Is that the kind, or would you rather just read a real biography or autobiography about that person? Actually, this seems like a rather poignant question because just recently, as of this recording, the movie Weird, the Al Yankovic story, has come out, starring Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic, and it is, from what I understand, I already knew before that it wasn't a straight biography of Weird Al, that there was a lot of fictionalized elements to it, and then I just read someone's comments on it, and they said basically it's a parody of biopics. Uh, so that falls into this, or would you rather see an actual legitimate biopic of Weird Al versus this fictionalized biopic? So same thing. Would you rather read a real biography or autobiography, or a sort of fictionalized version? And so let me know about that in the comments below. But I just lied straight to your faces, and I apologize for that, because I do have a question. I just forgot about it for a moment. And it has nothing to do with any of the books that I read, but it is something that came up, and this just seems like a good place to ask. So 2 questions for the price of 1 in this video. My second question to you is, do you feel that a reviewer should give trigger warnings for the material that they're reviewing? I asked this on social media and got some different responses. My biggest concern is spoilers. As always, I'm not a fan of spoilers. I try to avoid them as much as possible. And, if I say, hey, trigger warning for this book, dogs die, and then you're reading along and you come to a chapter with dogs in it, oh, well, these dogs are going to die. So what do you think? I generally don't do it. I will say vague things like this is an extreme novel with violence and extreme sex and that. But do you think a reviewer should give trigger warnings for the books they're reviewing? And again, just reviewers. We're not going to get into whether the authors themselves or the publishers. Just should the reviewer give trigger warnings? Well, let me know about that in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. Yes, I'm still on Twitter as of this recording. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K. ERIKSMITH5757. That is all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.